Welcome back. We're recording. We're live. Welcome back to What Are You Saying? The realest podcast in the world, the people's podcast, where people can not only learn and grow, but also feel heard and seen. I'm Osama,
My name is Mohammed.
and today we are actually off camera. We're discussing a lot of topics, and I've always said this, but it is genuinely a lot harder to start deciding. Obviously, you know this, but you actually came up with a topic today, which I find is so beautiful. Which I don't. We've spoken about privately, but never publicly. So share it to the viewers.
So essentially, for today's topic, yeah, we're having a conversation off off air, and we're trying to figure out what to talk about, right? And I was thinking about some people recently that have made a lot of headlines as far as in social media, on the news, and what these people do is they have a big following, huge following, a lot of followers, but what they do and how they utilize their audience as far as their actions is something I don't follow. And it's also harmful when you find out that they are Muslims and they're kind of
100%.
using Islam in a way to kind of draw in the youth. And yeah, it's harmful, it's toxic, it's, especially if they know what they're doing as well. And there's consequences, not for the person themselves, but the followers, because these people are taking on that person's ideology, their actions, their beliefs, and they're utilizing in their own daily lifestyle. And that's different because you're not a millionaire, you're not wealthy, you don't have access and resources to different things, especially if you come from an impoverished background and just ethnicity as well, right? So these things are probably tangibles are used against you. So essentially, that's why today's topic we're talking about blind following. And yeah, blind following is a very powerful concept. Pretty much, blind following is the idea of somebody just following someone else, ideologies, beliefs, actions, without understanding or taking into account what they're doing, what their motives is, and stuff like that. It's just attachment to the highest degree, and therefore resorting to becoming kind of an ebb of what that person's whole ideology is in a
Yeah,
sense.
it's like you're seeing them with your eyes, but not with your heart. And it goes back to it goes back to a Quranic verse. Like people, it's not the hearts which are it's not the eyes which are blind, it's the heart. And I feel like regarding blind following, you mentioned there's a lot of like Muslim influencers in general. I don't want to say Muslim influencers, but influencers in general have been making a lot of headlines in the past, even 5 years, I will say, just to make things a lot easier, where they're, in my opinion, manipulating everybody. Not even the younger generation, but even our era, the old people who are way older, by giving you these false narratives about how to live life. But the thing is, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah,
Exactly what they're doing. For example, like we are following. You said yourself, we are following people without knowing anything about them at all. Any history, you just see them post one picture on Instagram. He gets girls, or he has nice cars, or he has the lifestyle that I'm looking towards for. But then again,
yeah,
what did he sacrifice in a to get there? And again, a lot of people have, like, a lot of these influencers will say, or
of
even like
course.
celebrities, that people who actually did not make it, if there's actually videos about it, you can go search them up. And I remember one time we were watching a video. You were actually showing me the video, and he was talking about how his contracts. And this is like more of an extreme level. This You influencers have a responsibility of the content you put out there. It's funny because we used to always say, "Oh, like it's not my responsibility by who takes my words," but actually it is. Because when you, for example, have a big following and you know exactly what you're saying, like for example, like me and Muhammad, alhamdulillah, we've grown in the past. Specifically this year, we've grown a lot. So now, even when we were way smaller, we still knew we had a responsibility, because kids would come up to us and be like, we listen to you. So now we understood that there's an audience being.
And the thing is, obviously, if you're listening to this so far, you might be thinking, who are we to talk about blind
Who are
following?
these two guys who don't have a big
But you
following?
have to understand, obviously, how we grew up, where we grew up, and the time that we grew up. We were no different. So it's like a lot of your favorite musicians, athletes, entertainers, actors, actresses, painters, you name it. In the so-called industry of profitable goods and people being commoditized as items, and for us, the consumer, to pretty much take in their life stories and account every single day, and us not realizing that they're pretty much a product in a sense, that they have a team, corporations behind them that figure out months in planning, 6 months to a year, on how to push out this person as a commodity. We as a consumer not only digest it, we try to emulate them and take on who they are in our own lives. So us growing up, we know what it's like to be so obsessed with someone to the point where You know everything about them, where they live, how they grew up, what they did, what they didn't do, the decisions they made, where they went to school, how they met this person, the first beat they made, the album they made, who were the producers, how they came up with this rhyme, time studio, yada 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 yada. So at this point, you can't tell us nothing because we are, in a sense, that person expansion. We are this person's kind of like top serious in a way, right? Which
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
insane, right? And as this progresses year by year by year, and this person becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, we become so intense and so like I don't know, nonsensical, to the point where everything outside of that does not exist.
Yeah.
So your life is not as important. Your people in your life is not as important. Your job is not as important. Your spouse is not as important. Your children's not as important. Why? Because it doesn't measure up to this person and this fantasy that you're chasing or they sell you and stuff, right? Perfect example, just to give a quick example, Taylor Swift, Beyonce fans. Like, if you see how they are online, these people have identities, they have accounts where they're fighting so hard for these people and give you everything about them from a certain perspective on stage in front of the camera. But everything behind the scenes, as far as what's going on behind, we have no access to. We don't know what negotiations are being had between this person and that company. We don't know what's going on between this and the marketing team. We don't know what's going on between this person and stylists and directors. We
Yeah,
have
yeah.
no idea what the pain that this person might be going through as far as selling their who they are to us on a daily basis. Maybe being a global superstar is not the best thing in the world. But we don't know that, so therefore we are telling everyone it's either that or die, and your opinion is irrelevant.
Well, even I have a question for you, but even to add on to your point quickly, even Ellen DeGeneres got canceled because of the way she was mistreating her employees. But when you only, it's funny because we always try to like add little bits of our religion in our podcast, and it's
Yeah.
funny because when you only seek with your eyes regarding marriage, money, work, friendship, you're not going to see anything genuine. Because at first case value, you could look like an amazing person, but then your heart could be ugly.
Of course.
And my question to you is, do you think the consumer, meaning us and everybody else who's watching and everybody across the world, is more negatively impacted now, or do you think it's been the same throughout until now?
I think it's been the same, to be honest. It's been the same. Only difference is maybe now with social media and the internet, how much it's been expanded, how much access we have to it. Yes, it's a more higher usage. Think about it, like Elvis Presley came out in the 1950s. So you have that generation, baby boomers, teenagers finally going out, having fun at nighttime and everything, and they had to go out to stores and they had to buy vinyls, and listening to that was a sense of controversy and stuff, right? Then you have the 60s, you have, you know, the Beatles, and then you go into the late 60s, you have the hippie movement. By the time you get to the 80s, Michael Jackson, Thriller, the whole introduction of cassettes and CDs. Yes, the expansion of music becomes bigger, more sales, more artists, more than ever. Hip hop comes up as well, grunge, all these different genres. And at the same time, even movies, like Toy Story, like animation and stuff,
Yeah,
like all
Shrek.
these things. Like, yes, technology plays a huge role in how much we consume. Now with social media, it's totally different because the celebrity is not really the superstar that they used to be. So, perfect example, 20 to 30 years ago, any superstar you can think of was so beloved by the world because there was such a mystique to it.
Will Smith was
Perfect example, yeah, Will Smith. Because we read Will Smith in the magazines, we saw him on TV.
yeah, Eddie
That was
Murphy.
it. Movie premiere. They did an interview with Ellen DeGeneres, Oprah, and like three other
You thought he
CNN, Larry King. Like, besides that, we didn't know who they were.
you thought he lived a perfect lifestyle.
So because of that mystique, it was just like these people are living the greatest life on earth. If you
Yeah.
don't see them anywhere, you don't know who they are. Now with social media, that fourth wall's been revealed. So now celebrities don't have that same mystique because it's actually like a 24/7 job now. But
Pretty
they
much.
keep working on the internet. So now that we know where they go to eat, now we see them on boats, now we see them in the theaters and restaurants. It's not as fun, or the curiosity is not as appealing to want to find out who they really are. So because of that, streamers, influencers, regular citizens now are the new celebrities.
Even for example, if you think about like other celebrities, because we obviously mentioned Will Smith, who
Yeah.
was viewed as one of the most nicest and greatest celebrities amongst Hollywood, but of course, Mr. Perfect. And it's funny because now there's a whole narrative against him,
Of course.
and people view him differently. Ellen DeGeneres, Eddie Murphy,
Yeah, Eddie
who
Murphy. Yeah.
was always. I remember because you said you would go to the magazines and then you'd be like, oh, what are they saying about Eddie Murphy? Like, and the funny thing is, I think one time I remember asking him, like, can I buy that magazine? My dad's like, I'm not buying no magazine because the internet would not say anything about these celebrities. You couldn't
course.
find anything. I didn't know what TMZ was until way later. And I think, and the reason why I asked that question is because I do agree with you. I do believe that it's been negatively impacted. I think social media did a great way of, not a great way, but they did a more of a way of impacting it more. Like now you have more eyes. Like what really is a celebrity? You have TikTok celebrity, you have podcast celebrities, you have
It's diluted.
Hollywood celebrities. It's diluted because now before it was only Hollywood celebrities. When YouTube came in 2005, these people were obviously addressing YouTube and what to and like and how to and trying to make a career out of it. Which the OGs, they obviously found their own way.
Yeah.
I do believe though that more so than ever, we're always being manipulated since time.
Oh, forever.
Forever. Like even through the movie, there were subliminal messages they were trying to send.
Disney.
Disney, and even for example, when you think of like the guy trying to get the girl after he wins, or and now you see it all over TikTok. So it's like the question remains is like how well are we kind of like prioritizing our time because our last episode just quickly was about oppressing people. And it's funny we're talking about blind following because these same people are oppressing you by following their brand. You get no return out of it. You get no return
Definitely.
out of it. And it's funny because you could tell the context. So many celebrities or so many whatever you consider a celebrity, and you're probably be like, well, that's kind of contradicting because you guys are on that spotlight. But however, you look at all the crash outs that have happened in the past 10 years, and we're old enough to see the people that we grew up watching, from Ellen DeGeneres to Will Smith to whoever crashed out,
Kanye.
Kanye, whoever crashed out, and now it's like you don't view them in that light no more. So, for example, when you just bring up Kanye West, to go back, I can no longer see him the way I saw him in 2007. Because to me, that was like how I grew up. Now I just see him for who he is today. This is like you ruined your image of whatever it was. Will Smith also ruined his image. But you guys are also you guys do have a great role in terms of representing. And it kind of brings me back to a point with WWE. And John Cena one time noticed that the demographic was actually changing to younger. And I know a lot of us did not like the whole it's not the point. Like the whole PG era was hated by a lot of people, including my generation. But he was cognizant of the fact, saying, "Hey, I can no longer play this character who I may really am in person because there's
Of
like
course.
these people here." But again, it's so scary to see how many kids and adults and people from our era are blindly just saying, "Yes, this guy's amazing because he gives $100." You know, it's funny. We've had this conversation before. Why do you have to film yourself giving good to the community? That's my question. I remember one time we had it regarding like Justin Bieber. A lot of celebrities do it. I'm not saying it's not good to do it. I believe any form of giving charity is great, but then you also think about it in retrospect. You're trying to get more fan base. You're trying to get people to love you. And I feel like in my head, when whether you're Muslim or not, you do that. In my head, I'm like, well, are you doing it because you want to get a following, or are you doing it because you want people to be like, oh, yeah, I like him.
And that's the thing about blind following. It's like you're doing it, not realizing it. For me, I guess, because I love history, so when you talked about the crash outs, all these different acts, especially musical acts, actors throughout history that was so beloved, I studied the patterns of who they were, how they got into the industry, how they became so successful. And then the always common theme is there's like the situation at some point in their career where when they want ownership, freedom of expression, voice to actually say what they want to say, or just more power over the career. And that was always a price for that. And that price was their lives, whether they became mentally ill, drugs, alcoholism, or even death in mysterious ways. And when you find out that's been the common theme up until now, like you said, I want to see what's going to happen with my era, my generation. And when I started realizing that a lot of the people, as far as musical contemporaries that I looked up to once upon a time,
Not
kind of
anymore.
had the exact same thing, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, there's no mistake, and this is where I check out. And that's when it goes back to religion. Prophets, they have crash out. So it's like
and they had less following to some prophets.
So that's the whole point. It's just like people you follow, who they are on camera might be different from who they are off camera, as we know. Does not mean that you should not like them or respect them for what they do as far as their career, but what benefit does it give you? As far as the things that you could take from that's intangible of who they are and what they're
Yeah.
selling at the end of the day, right?
I actually want to say something, but
Yeah.
it might get cut out. Or I just have to keep it as so vague as possible. We interviewed a lot of people. Some people not even looked up. We just knew growing up. And it's funny because we interviewed one person who was not the image that we thought they were when we first came across. And when we interviewed this individual, it was crazy because I'm like, oof, you aren't the same person that you were when I remembered you. And to your point, a lot of people do change their image just to get more views. Like you think, for example, the best example is these streamers. They're not like, I'm not saying they're all bad, but I'm saying they have to keep a certain image in order for you to like them. Because I remember one time someone comes up to me, it's like, oh, you're from like the Waste podcast. I'm like, yeah. He's like, man, he's like, I just want to say you guys are amazing. I'll listen to you. I'm like, yeah, thanks, brother. It was actually at the mosque. I'm like, oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Not every celebrity is nice. And you've heard stories about certain celebrities who have been rude to other people, right? You mentioned the prophets, peace be upon them, peace be upon all of them. You can't have blind following within Islam. Either you follow through here, there's no time to follow through here. Because I could see, for example, the sea splitting, but they'll actually believe it was the one and only Allah who split it. But then you guys see some guy making a video giving people charity. Oh, he's so nice, he's so nice. But then someone else is probably doing it privately. For example, Mr. Beast, in my opinion, is that guy. He would always do videos to give money, and I'm just saying that there could be that. And I might get a lot of hate for this, but I just don't care. Just saying the truth here. These people, to your point, they're not the same. They're not portraying themselves the same way they are in person. Because in person they could be a whole different. They're a whole different person. The way they think differently, they act differently. Everyone's playing a persona. Everyone's playing a persona. You can generally tell when someone's authentic. Like when someone's authentic, they're not gonna be talking about stuff which does not benefit them. When you know someone's authentic, they're talking about real stuff, like things that aren't trying to get them famous. Our first talk show that got released was literally about COVID. And our third topic, which a lot of you do not know, was supposed to be about social media, but then the whole George Floyd incident happened. Name me a lot of talk shows that spoke about George Floyd. They didn't. We had that conversation. We're like, we did. Because we're not, because even us, we're not following trends. Are we following trends?
No.
We don't. And whoever says that, that's your opinion, but in reality sets in. We aren't. You can go through a whole set of, this will be 167th episode. You can go through all of them. Yes, we have fun, yes, we talk, but there's never a time where we're like talking about things which we know will get us views. And it's funny, if me and you want to be famous, extremely famous, don't you think we would have started this like ages ago? But I think the whole thing with blind following, one is you're being manipulated, in my opinion. You're being oppressed by the media itself, and they know what they're dragging into in order for you to subscribe, because they know what you like and they understand psychologically each generation's tuned into something. I think lastly is you're no longer, how scary this point is, you're no longer able to make a decision for yourself. You're no longer able to make a decision for yourself. I can no longer choose between right or wrong. How sad is that?
Yeah. But there is blind following even in religion. Like,
Of course.
I don't want to make this more controversial, but obviously there's like different sects, whether either amongst Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and stuff.
You can make it
That
controversial.
might be super extreme, obviously. That might have theological or ideological differences. That's not true, but because of some person, many followers, generation upon generations, or even till now, as far as like maybe a certain imam might give a fatwa on something that's very controversial, and because of that, people just follow him and just continue praising him and praising him, praising him, without actually looking into it for their own selves or getting more research or speaking to more people or imams or watching videos and stuff, right? Even academia as well. Many professors and different ideologies that became prominent throughout history and stuff. People just believed and did not even take into account how this, as far as case studies were tampered with or numbers were made up or some papers were sabotaged, like a lot of different things, right? And all the isms that's become very prominent and big in the past like 20, 30, 40, 60 years as well. A lot of different movements and for different people and groups as well. Many of the followers today, blind following, without actually looking into it, seeing what benefits and values it actually does have, as opposed to just holding on to that flag without knowing that it's actually harmful in the long
Yeah,
run.
to your point, you're right. There is some blind following that happens amongst religion, and it's not spoken about.
No.
Even amongst Muslims, against other religions, you see it. It's blind following. Right there, they're following some individual, they're following some false reality, and it's not even true. But I think with me regarding like blind following, is you always have to double check about someone's intention. You can always tell someone's intentions through the camera. You know what's so interesting is like, you can tell by the way they edit videos. And I don't want to mention this person's name. But years ago, this like Muslim content creator at the time on YouTube, this is like 2011, 2012. Some Muslim creator, and to all the people thinking I'm talking about FouseyTube, it's not FouseyTube. This individual was, I guess he edited a part of the video out, and you could tell that the cut didn't make sense. And then he went from talking about something else to something else. And then years go by, I guess some Muslim beef happened on like YouTube. And then one of the guys was saying, he was like, to all you guys watching thinking that these influencers, Muslims or non-Muslims, regardless of who they are, they're innocent, they're not. Because when you're in that realm, you're only following from what you see. If me and you, for example, like, and again, for me and you, we don't post anything about our lives. Nothing. Like, the amount of times people tell me, they're like, well, how are you trying to grow? I don't care. Like, I don't care about being that famous. And I don't, even if we are, inshallah, one day, like, for the good, not for like negative. I don't need you entering my life. And I'm aware that posting more stuff about your lifestyle will allow you to grow and flourish. I'm already aware of that. But you have to be really careful, because as soon as you allow people to enter your life, you could be trying to leave this sin or trying to leave this lifestyle, and then you're convincing someone else to do it subliminally. Also, I would rather you just listen to my words. Agree or disagree. That's up to your prerogative. But I don't want to be the person that ever allows anybody through my words and then be like, well, Osama and Muhammad said this, I'm gonna like go with this, because that's not the point here. And again, blind following, by the way, could also happen. We're speaking about negative. It can also happen amongst positive stuff, that you just go based off of, even though it's good for you, even though like what they're saying is good, but you might follow and you may not even believe it yourself, which is also dangerous, because you may not be ready for that understanding of that material. You'd be like, oh, well, it seems right. Well, do you believe it's right, or are you just believing because I'm saying it's right?
Yeah, I think the biggest danger with blind following is really time. Number one, you don't know how much time you're gonna have. Two, you don't know how long you're gonna live, what you're gonna do in life, as far as progressions, different steps, checkpoints, and chapters. And with teenagers, essentially, corporate world understand the value that teenagers have. They might not give you that value in terms of rights, in terms of public speaking, in terms of being able to change the rules when it comes to curriculum and that, but they understand the value you guys have because you have that time, because you have that energy, and because you're so passionate about whatever that gives you that sense of satisfaction. Corporate are able to put whatever they need in front of you to pretty much magnify whatever they're trying to sell you at the moment. So that's why when it comes to teenagers, especially from like 12 to like 19, most things that we cater to are them. Sports, entertainment, food,
Social media.
movies, social media, you name it, because you guys are at a time in your life where obviously you're changing as far as your bodies and your minds and everything, but you have that time and you're obviously getting the first car, first job, first bank account, first trip. So all these things you want to share.
Maybe first relationship.
You want to share these experiences to the world. And whatever that thing is you guys attach yourselves to, guess what? They get the attention as well, because it's not only word of mouth. You guys are doing it as well, whatever product, technology, or type of tool that you're using at the moment. So it amplifies. Before it was locally, but with social media and how accessible the internet is globally. So
Yeah.
that's why teenagers, you guys are so valued, despite how society treats you. Obviously, limiting to what you guys may not know or may not possess as far as capabilities and skills. But when it comes to dollar amount, when it comes to actual impact, you guys are probably number one or two in terms of target demographics amongst age groups.
You spoke about attachment, and I think there's a correlation between attachment and blind following.
Of course,
Regarding
of course.
relationships, sometimes you follow. We've all done that mistake where you meet someone, and you only see them through your eyes. Especially you mentioned those adolescent ages between 12 to 19. That's or even sometimes older. In your 20s, you fall for that person, girl or guy, or whatever it might be, or that car, that job, and then you go into it blindly, and then you're stuck. Then they start making you do stuff that I'm not even talking about extreme, but they start making you do stuff which could go against your religion, could go against your beliefs. You may not, you just saw the money, or for example, the biggest example I can give regarding blind following is marriage. Sometimes we talk to a sister, sisters talk to brothers, and they only see their aesthetics. Oh, mashallah, he's tall. Mashallah, she's cute. Mashallah, her body, whatever, whatever, whatever. But then you get to know the person, and then you got yourself so attached blindly that you didn't ask the right questions about. And again, this could also happen, mind you, to anybody. But I think that in the thing is, blind following could also be mistaken. Like sometimes we're new to something, we don't fully know, we don't fully grasp the information. We go into something and then we're like, oh shoot, now I have to get out. I think it's really important not to attach yourself to anything when you're not fully educated on it. Even for example, like going back to school, going to a job, whatever it might be, go do a bit of research to calm your heart. Go. I would also say go to the point of doing, for Muslims, for the non-Muslims that are listening, we have something istikhara, like I call this a dilemma prayer. When you feel like you're in a dilemma and you're not able to make a decision, this can help reduce the blindness of going to something and being correct. You're not gonna, like, again, even if you have friendships where you believe they're no longer benefiting you, and you feel like you're only there for whatever reasons, and you feel like that's the dangerous part, is we say for the wrong reasons, and then we get attached ourselves. By the time that person leaves, you're fully attached. You're not only thinking, you're not now you're gonna go through the same process again, like blind following. So it's like try your best to say, okay, well, you know what, I'm friends with John, but why am I friends with John? What has he done? What's he done for me? The answer is nothing. Then you should just leave. But I think attachment, and I think you'd agree, I think attachment and blind following go hand on hand.
Yeah, it's true. And even beyond that, when it comes to the idea of blind following, it's like you're never really gonna escape it. To be honest, it's always gonna be somewhere in your life. Obviously, it might not be extreme level, where we're talking about teenagers and different types of industries and stuff like that. But at some way, one shape or another, it might be in your life whether you realize it or not. So definitely, like you said, doing your due diligence, always reflecting, always being aware, asking yourself questions about what are things that are in your life that's helping you, things in your life that's not helping you, and trying to decipher and just put a line in between the two. Maybe by doing that, you'll be able to differentiate like what's helpful, what's not helpful. And with that, obviously, it's up to you as the individual to make that decision to cut it off once and for good. Not saying it's gonna happen instantaneous, obviously, because everyone's life is different, and obviously, whatever you have going on is what you have going on. But at least knowing the steps that's there, that's available, you have to do it. And two, obviously, as things turn, society and the new rules and what comes of it's going to change as well, right? Social media was new. It began what it is now. It's a new, different thing as far as the rules being written, who are the content creators, and the kind of things that's acceptable, that's not acceptable. What's going to come about 10 years from now
Probably worse.
is more insane. But once
Yeah.
again, if you're not aware of what these things are doing for you right now, 10 years from now, forget the word blind following. It's going to be something else because the consequences that people are going to be doing, especially the youth, it's going to be life or death, really, pretty much.
It is, and I think something else I want to say is when Andrew Tate became this whole narrative. Forget your opinions about him. I just want to talk about that specifically. I remember we had Usama Sharaf on our podcast on the last time we had him was episode 25. And guys, if you go listen to him, amazing speaker. The way he breaks down stuff is so amazing. But we've had him twice before. And I remember he was talking about there's certain things he agrees with. Like, there's certain things I'll agree to entertain, and certain things we obviously disagree. Different point of perspectives. But here's where the blind following comes from. You can't just follow someone because he says one video you like. Does that make sense? Like again, there's a lot of things that your favorite celebrity might like, but does not mean you start idolizing them. Oh, I'm gonna follow their every move. If this person does this, if this person does that, I'm gonna go and do that. And I think the way
What if they watch 10 videos?
still no. I think when it comes to following someone is also seeing what they're posting on their social media page, seeing how they present themselves on other talk shows. That also goes a long way. Like, for example, if me and you, we have amazing conversations, but then in public or we're taking pictures with non-mahram women, do you think at that point we're just hypocrites? You can't be promoting one thing and then doing the complete opposite. And I think and this can also go for myself and Muhammad, because a lot of people could be like, well, I know you guys personally used to do this. If you're going to use your past sins, but I'm talking about things you're currently doing, not past. I'm talking about things you're currently doing. You cannot proclaim something now and then blindly follow something because you agree with it. Okay, well, go do your research. And for example, so many artists make great music. Does not mean I blindly follow them. I like their music. You have to differentiate between them making their content and who they are as a person. That's a huge differentiator, by the way. If you like their music, sure, but also then you can go again, well, their music is that person. So then again, you have to understand not everybody's able to control themselves. Some people could fully indulge in this act. When you listen to artists like in the rap game, or you mentioned like Taylor Swift and Beyonce, their fans will go crazy for them just to defend them. And there's other artists that will do the same. I mean, there's other fans that would do the same for their artists. And I think that there isn't a specific number, but I would just say go do your research about. And in Hollywood celebrities wouldn't make sense to go do research about them because you're not going to work with them. But I'm talking about people who are on TikTok who are easily accessible, and then you can read, man, you said this, but what are you trying to do? People are trying to get views. Isn't it insane that you talk about distraction, you talk about time is not, it's not guaranteed. And again, back to Osama Shurafa. I remember he was saying tick tock, and that's what the clock does. It's like you're just like swiping through to the point where you spent 2 to 3 hours on these celebrities who actually do not care about you, and they know what they have to do to get you to view it, which is sad because then you're just gaining no benefit, in my opinion. How many when was the last content creator, in my opinion, that benefited you?
Well, even besides that question, one thing you talked about as far as the difference between liking someone's music and the things they do, that's the perfect example of blind following, because even when a celebrity has controversy and there's actually proven evidence of them engaging in such acts over such a period of time, still people will still go to the shows, will still tweet, post stories defending the person, show support, put money in their pockets by donating to their page, and publicly call out anyone else crazy losers, lunatics, and whatever nonsensical things for even wanting to, dismiss the artist. A perfect example is R. Kelly.
I was just thinking R. Kelly.
So R. Kelly is someone that's legendary in the community for
Amazing singer.
African Americans, and he's been around forever.
The
So
thing is,
for everyone, R. Kelly's been attached to your lifestyle one way or another if you're black. The thing is, the allegations against him, we knew about this 20, 30 years ago. A video came out. So, but even with the video, kind of everyone pushed it to the side.
Yeah.
Remember, social media did not really exist. It was just, the traditional media. So with that, he was given a pass. But those rumors still lingered. It wasn't until the documentary came out and we found out
With those
everything,
women.
the practices he was doing, how people were involved as far as his team, keeping it a secret, a lot of his songs, famous songs that he wrote for himself and other people, the double meaning behind it. And we find out the allusions and the metaphors and the similes and what he really meant. Not only is it disgusting and just alarming, but this is 30 years, 40 years of someone who's had an impact on you, your lifestyle. The song was played at your graduation, at your wedding, at your baby ceremony, your baby shower. The first of many people meeting each other, this person was played. The first of many people being consummate with each other, intimate. This person was played. The first of many for a lot of people for decades was with this person being played. And even when everything comes out, the truth, him being exposed, most people obviously with a common sense be like, you know what? That sucks. But I'm obviously not gonna continue to support this because I can make a distinction between the music and the artist, so therefore I don't need both. I can live without it. Still, you have people who will justify and be like, you know what he did was him as the person. The music is the music. So because of that, we can still support him in any way, whatever shape, form, or fashion through the music, which does not make any sense. And that is a great example of blind following because even if the claims and the evidence is laid out in front of you, still, people will still throw in the trash and still attach themselves to someone.
Well, of course, like you're gonna have people who will always differentiate between the person and the music. Even on a minor level, like someone could be in a gang, but you still like their music, and again, they're probably subliminally telling you. And it's always rappers. Doesn't matter who they are. There's no point. There's no point in naming anybody. But R. Kelly's a great example. Even for example, like Bill Cosby, for the older generation, was pretty much the father of America. Bro, he was like he was the father of America.
America's dad.
And he would, like I remember I wasn't part of the era of watching the Bill Cosby show, but I just remember watching reruns of it as a youth. And
It's my favorite show.
yeah, it's one of it's an iconic show.
So imagine that was my favorite television show.
It's an iconic show. And I think regarding blonde following, all I gotta say is this: you also watching have to take some responsibility because you also know what you're. The thing is, man, the kids or everybody else are more smarter now. It's to the point where babies like who are 2 years old know how to go on their like on their uncles or parents' phone and they can skip ads. So it's not like these kids they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They know how they're being responsive. So you're also technically you have to hold yourself responsible because you see these reports of like these young teenagers dying because they're doing stupid stunts on TikTok, which someone already died from it before, but they think that they're indestructible. Come on, just because, for example, your favorite celebrity like I don't know Taylor Swift or Beyonce, Kendrick or J. Cole, whoever it might be, all these Jay-Z, whoever it might be, do something does not mean you have to do it.
But they're kids. That's the whole point. They're questionable, right? So
It's
that's the part where that's why, as much as your parents, your uncles, aunties, whoever in your life, that's why during those teenage years, we give such preference to those people because it's an escape from the lifestyle you're currently living and what they're promoting or selling to you. It's much more dreamier. It's much more livelier. And then somehow it seems better in that moment than obviously you living in a two-part bedroom with 20 people and having to go through a neighborhood where it's gangs, shootings, and drugs and all that stuff. And plus racial differences, and you're totally never going to be crap. And you have to make the decision whether you're going to work $5 an hour or go out and sell and make money quickly. But the cost of that is your life or in prison. So it's like, it's tough. But that's the reason why I don't respect most of these people because the people who are trying to act, because remember, once again, we should make a distinction. There are people who are actually on the front lines trying to reach
have a
out to
good
the
image.
youth,
Yeah.
trying to help those who are going through tough things.
We can name them.
There's many different organizations, many different people in the community, grassroots organizations.
Shut them out.
But because of the influence and the affluence that these celebrities have, that's why it's so much harder for them to do that.
But we give them that power though.
We give them that power, but at the same time, I'm not expecting a 12 or 13-year-old to have that cognitive ability to be like, you know what, that is true, I'm gonna stop because they're 12 years old. Right?
We've said this before. Like for example, people like we've had like all these Islamic scholars on our podcast. Like for example, when you think of the big times like Mufti Mak, Dr. Omar Suleiman, or like Sheikh Abdullah Uduro, amazing individuals. And of course, we interviewed Sheikh Abdullah Uduro. But when you're talking to the average 12-year-old kid or the average 13-year-old kid, or even someone in his mid 20s who's still in that lifestyle of like, oh, these celebrities, whatever, what I'm talking about, these heedless conversations, which is funny because you even find yourself, I even sometimes find myself in these heedless conversations, not because you want to, because you're so accustomed to doing it that you're like, man, I gotta go like.
It's a behavior. It's a
It's
pattern.
a behavior
routine.
pattern, exactly. And I think, but the average person is not gonna go watch Omar Suleiman or like Sheikh Abdullah Udur. Not because they're bad people, no, just because they're talking about something that they haven't made the commitment yet to understand.
Of course.
That's the biggest one. They haven't made the commitment yet. It's not that they don't want. It's not that they don't want to. They haven't made the commitment.
It's a cleanse for the soul.
It is a concern also, but also even like we talk about blind following, even on a micro scale. Sometimes we're speaking about celebrities and influencers, which are the biggest thing because they know how to attract your attention. But even amongst your friendships, there are people who are probably are not good for you. And I want to say this: it's not that they're bad people; it's that they are no longer beneficial to your life. And we don't understand this until we're in our mid 20s. When you see, and we had this conversation at Tim Hortons the other day, kind of slightly about people we thought that would stay in our lives versus people that we thought would leave. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you should be ready for certain people to exit. And you'll always have that feeling, I can see this person exiting. And you're talking to a girl for the purpose of marriage for a day or two, that doesn't count. You haven't even known them yet. Talking about someone you've known for years and then they leave. You're talking
A
about
day one.
a day one. Someone you've known for a long period of time. If you know you're blindly following someone, there's nothing wrong. I gotta choose my words wisely. Because there is something wrong to listen to music. Because doesn't cleanse the soul. And we all do it. And in the gym, you hear it in your car with the boys, we all do it. But I will say this. If it's getting you to the point to make you do stuff which is outside of your nature, outside of your belief system, that you start doing stuff based off of what they're portraying, I would say you should stop and get away from music. Go take a cleanse. Because that's when it gets scary. Because not everybody can control themselves.
No. And when you find many people, those who are young youth offenders, whether it's crimes and everything, when you do an interrogation, what happened? I was a person who came from an impoverished background, had no options. Many of the older people, as far as men, no father figures and stuff, they weren't in the home, they're either dead or in jail and stuff. So the only impressionable person was that 19, 20, 21-year-old that somehow survived being in the streets for a long time. And what's the first thing they do? They have the cars, they have the girls, they have the money. They could take me to the mall, buy me clothes here and stuff, whatever. I become attached to this instead of glorifying your Lord. And because of that, I get attached and associated with 5 to 6 people who are doing certain things that allows them to get access to money. So therefore, my parents can't tell me anything because my parents have never made $20,000 in a week, let alone $20,000 in a year in their whole lives. I'm dating this, obviously, let's say 1980s or 1990s. But even still now. But the point is, these 5 to 6 people, they go and do crimes, they go and burglarize or rob into people's homes. But before they commit the act, they gotta get themselves in the mode. So what is that? Do a lot of drugs, hardcore drugs. So they're not even thinking, they psych themselves out. And this is what makes people cold, blank out, ruthless, killers. And while doing that, there is the soundtrack. What's the soundtrack? Is it recitation of Surah Al-Mulk? No.
Okay.
It is hardcore music.
Drugs.
People talking about doing certain acts, killing, robbing, molesting,
Drugs,
raping,
alcohol,
you name it, stomping, beating, gruesome,
belittling women.
to the highest of beats, to the highest of BPMs, and all that blend, that's an elixir. That takes your life. So because of that, your best friend is a mouse for the next 40 to 60 years in a solitary confinement. So that's the price that we pay. So it's like, yes, when they talk about not listening to music, when they talk about having amazing friends, when they talk about having confinement, being used to being isolated for the fact of reflection, gratitude, not being ungrateful, when they talk about reading a book that's been compiled, that's here until the end of humanity, it's a constitution written for humanity that has many historical facts, scientific proofs, and also religious themes and attributes that we should take from, by all means, neglecting it comes with the price of your life. And that's what blind following does, as we know. So if you are young, this is the time where you're in a fight. We know that fight, we've been through it, but not everyone is able to get to the other side. So do the best that you can and try to have the intention to make that change. Try to find people who are on that pathway and put yourself in environments of those who are doing the best they could, as well as attaching yourselves to the elders who also talk good but do good as well. So through that, you do have that perspective and that visible sign of what righteousness looks like, as opposed to being and confined to a lifestyle of the rich and shameless.
Yeah. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is What Are You Saying? The thing is, we don't even have an intro to outro to
All
end it
right, we gotta
off.
figure that out.
We gotta figure that out. But anyways, thank you for listening so much, guys. This is episode 167. Inshallah, we'll see you next time. Peace.